Before we begin, make sure you're somewhere quiet. Turn off the lights. Put on your headphones. Because the stories you're about to hear aren't just scary. These are the kinds of experiences people don't talk about. If you enjoy true horror stories, unsettling encounters, and disturbing events that happen to real people, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Now, let's begin. I've driven long-distance highways most of my adult life. When you drive enough, you learn two things very quickly. First, never trust how empty a road looks. Second, never stop at a place that feels like it doesn't want you there. I learned the second lesson the hard way. This happened in late October, just after midnight. I was driving alone through a stretch of highway that cuts across 3 states of nothing, no towns, no lights, no cell service. Just road, trees, and the occasional reflective sign warning you about wildlife crossings that never actually show wildlife. I had been holding my bladder for nearly an hour. Every exit I passed either led nowhere or had signs for gas stations 10 miles ahead that never seemed to come. My GPS glitched twice and eventually just stopped updating altogether, freezing my position in the middle of a grey void. That's when I saw it. A pit stop. Not a proper rest area, no big signs, no welcome board, no vending machines advertised. Just a small green sign on the shoulder that said, "Restrooms, 1 mile." No logo. No name. I slowed down immediately. Something about it felt off. I don't know how to explain that feeling except to say it felt like the sign had been waiting for me specifically. A minute later, my headlights caught the entrance. The pit stop was barely visible from the road. A narrow driveway curved into the trees, and at the end of it sat a single low concrete building with 2 bathroom symbols painted on the wall, so faded they looked scratched rather than painted. There were no cars in the lot. I almost kept driving. But my bladder made the decision for me. The moment I pulled in, my phone lost all signal completely. Not no bars. Just a black screen where the signal icon should have been. My radio cut to static at the same time. I told myself it was coincidence. I parked close to the building, left the engine running, and stepped out. The air was wrong. It smelled old. Not like dirt or trees, like wet concrete and something metallic underneath it. The silence was heavy, the kind where even insects seemed to have decided not to make noise. The building had 2 metal doors. One marked men, the other women. Both were slightly open, just enough to show darkness inside. That should have been my cue to leave. I pushed the men's door open. The light inside flickered on automatically, buzzing loudly. The bathroom was small, 2 sinks, 2 stalls. Everything looked outdated. Tiles cracked. Rust around the pipes. The mirrors were stained so badly they reflected shapes more than faces. I stepped inside and the door shut behind me with a loud metallic clang. Too loud. I locked myself into the stall farthest from the door. The lock slid into place with a sound that echoed through the room longer than it should have. That's when I heard footsteps. Not outside. Inside the bathroom. Slow. Heavy. Like someone dragging their feet on purpose. I froze, mid-breath. The footsteps stopped right outside my stall. No shadow underneath. No breathing. Just presence. Then a voice spoke. Not loud. Not angry. Calm. Don't flush. My heart slammed into my ribs. I stayed silent. The voice spoke again, closer this time, like whoever it belonged to had leaned down toward the stall door. They don't like the noise. I forced myself to speak. Who's there? No answer. Instead, the lights flickered violently, plunging the room into darkness for a second before coming back on, dimmed. When they did, I noticed something new in the mirror across the bathroom. A third reflection. Standing behind where I knew the stall door was. Tall. Thin. head tilted at an angle that made my neck ache just looking at it. But when I cracked the stall door open, there was no one there. The bathroom was empty. I rushed out, didn't wash my hands, didn't look back. The moment I stepped outside, the pit stop lights shut off completely. My car engine stalled. Dead silence. Then I heard the bathroom door open behind me. I didn't turn around. I jumped into my car, twisted the key over and over until the engine roared back to life. As I sped out of the lot, my headlights swept over the building one last time. The men and women symbols were gone, replaced by one word carved deep into the concrete wall. Wait. I didn't stop driving for another 4 hours. The next morning, I checked my GPS history. That pit stop wasn't on any map. And according to highway records, that stretch of road never had a restroom there at all. But 3 months later, I met another driver at a truck stop in a different state. We got to talking. And without prompting, he asked me a question that made my blood run cold. Hey, have you ever stopped at a bathroom that tells you not to flush? I've worked night shifts at a highway pit stop for almost 6 years, and if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. The people who stop after midnight are never the same as the people who stop during the day. Truckers, sure. That's normal. But after 2 a.m., you start seeing the ones who don't make sense. People who look lost without asking for directions. Cars that pull in with no license plates. Drivers who never turn their engines off. And sometimes, people who never leave. This happened during my 3rd year working graveyard shifts at a pit stop just outside a desert highway. We were the last stop for nearly 70 miles in either direction. No towns nearby. No houses. Just road, sand, and darkness. I was alone that night. That wasn't unusual. Corporate liked to save money by running the night shift with one employee. Cameras everywhere, panic button under the counter, big glass windows facing the pumps. At 1:37 a.m., a car pulled in. It was an older sedan, dark green, paint peeling, headlights dim like they were struggling to stay awake. It rolled slowly up to pump 3 and stopped crooked, halfway over the line. The engine stayed running. I watched from behind the counter as the driver's door opened. A man stepped out. He was tall, painfully thin, wearing clothes that looked decades old. Brown jacket, dark slacks, shoes worn so flat they looked melted into the pavement. His hair was grey but not from age, more like it had lost its color. He didn't look at the store. He didn't look at the pumps. He just stood there, staring at the gas nozzle like he'd never seen one before. I waited. After a minute, I picked up the intercom. "Sir, you need to prepay inside." No reaction. He reached out slowly and grabbed the nozzle. Didn't insert it into the car. Just held it. That's when I noticed his hands. They were shaking, not like nerves. Like exhaustion. Like something holding itself together through sheer will. He stood there holding the nozzle for a full 5 minutes. Then 10. I stepped out from behind the counter and watched him through the glass. That's when the smell hit me. Gasoline. Strong enough to burn my nose. I looked down at pump 3's display. It was running. Numbers ticking up. But the nozzle wasn't in the car. It was pointed straight down. Gas was pouring onto the concrete. I grabbed the intercom again. "Sir, you need to stop pumping." That's when he turned his head. Slowly. Too slowly. His eyes were wide, unfocused, like they were seeing something far behind me. When he spoke, his voice didn't match his body. It sounded younger. Desperate. "I don't have much time," he said. I froze. "Sir, you're spilling gas everywhere. You need to." "I just need enough to get home." Something about the way he said home made my stomach twist. I stepped out of the booth, keeping my distance. "Sir, please put the nozzle back." You're going to cause a fire. He looked down at the gas pooling around his shoes. And smiled. I already burned once. Before I could respond, the station lights flickered. Just once. When they came back, the man was gone. No footsteps. No sound of a door. No car driving away. Just the nozzle still pumping gas onto the ground. I ran to the pump and slammed the emergency shutoff. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped the nozzle. I looked around the lot. Empty. No car. No man. But the smell of gasoline was overwhelming. I went back inside and checked the cameras. Pump 3's feed was wrong. It showed the pump. It showed the gas spilling. But the man never appeared on camera. Not entering the lot. Not standing there. Not leaving. The footage skipped from an empty pump to gasoline pouring out on its own. I reported it to my manager the next morning. He went quiet. Then he asked me a question I didn't expect. Did he say anything about burning? I nodded. My manager sighed and pulled out an old incident binder. Inside were yellowed reports, dating back over 20 years. Every few years, always late at night, employees reported the same man. Same clothes. Same pump. Same words. I don't have much time. I just need enough to get home. Then came the fire reports. Years ago, before the station was rebuilt, there had been a massive explosion at Pump 3. A man had spilled gasoline, ignored warnings, and lit a cigarette. They never found enough remains to identify him. Corporate rebuilt the station. Replaced the pumps. But they never renumbered them. Pump 3 stayed Pump 3. That night, after closing, I went outside and stood near the pump. I noticed something I'd never seen before. Burn marks. Deep black stains under the concrete. Not new. Not old. Like they'd never gone away. As I turned to leave, I heard footsteps behind me. Slow. Dragging. And a voice, right at my ear, whispered. I'm still trying to get home. I quit 2 weeks later. But sometimes, when I drive past pit stops late at night, I see a man standing by a pump that isn't pumping. Just waiting. I found the pit stop by accident. That's important because no map I checked later ever showed it existed. This happened during a cross-country drive I took alone a few years ago. I was moving states for work and decided to do the drive overnight to avoid traffic. I'd been on the road for nearly 9 hours straight, running on gas station coffee and loud music, when my phone lost signal. Not weak signal. Nothing. No bars. No GPS. No data. I told myself it was fine. I still had plenty of gas, and the highway was straight. Just desert stretching forever in both directions. No exits. No lights. That's when my low fuel warning came on. I slowed down, scanning the road ahead, heart thumping harder than it should have. I hadn't seen a sign for a pit stop in over an hour. Then, out of nowhere, headlights appeared on my right. A turn-off. No reflective sign. No billboard. Just a narrow road cutting into the darkness, with a flickering light at the end. I hesitated. But my fuel gauge dipped lower. I turned. The pit stop looked wrong. The building was small, single-story, concrete walls stained dark like oil had soaked into them over decades. The lights buzzed loudly, giving everything a sickly yellow color. 2 pumps stood out front, old style with analog dials. No other cars. No sound. Not even wind. I parked and stepped out. The air felt heavy, like I'd walked into a sealed room. The store door was unlocked. Inside, everything was coated in dust, but not abandoned dust. It looked undisturbed, like nothing had touched it in years. Shelves half stocked with faded packaging. A coffee machine that looked ancient. A register that wasn't plugged in. No clerk. I called out. Hello? My voice sounded wrong in the space, like it didn't echo properly. I went back outside and tried the pump. It clicked on. Gas flowed. That's when I noticed the date on the inspection sticker. 1997. I told myself it was just neglected paperwork. I filled up and went back inside, planning to grab a drink and leave. That's when I noticed the clock on the wall. It wasn't ticking. The time read 2:11 a.m. My phone said the same thing. That should have been my sign to leave. Instead, exhaustion hit me all at once. I hadn't slept in over 20 hours. I figured I'd close my eyes in the car for 10 minutes. Just 10. I locked the doors, leaned the seat back, and shut my eyes. I woke up to knocking. Not loud. Gentle. Polite. I checked my phone. Still 2:11 a.m. My chest tightened. I looked up. Someone was standing outside my driver's side window. A man. He wore a pit stop uniform, green jacket, stitched logo I didn't recognize. His face looked faded. Like the details didn't fully load in my brain. I cracked the window. Sorry, I said. I was just resting. You can't stay long, he replied. His voice was flat. Not threatening. Not kind. Just factual. What do you mean? I asked. This place doesn't like it when people stay. My stomach dropped. I glanced past him toward the building. The lights flickered. For just a moment, I saw something moving inside. Too tall. Too slow. I asked the man how long he'd worked there. He didn't answer. Instead, he asked, "What year do you think it is?" I laughed nervously. I stopped. My phone screen went black. The pit stop lights shut off, everything went dark except the man's face. You should go, he said. And don't look back. I started the car. The engine hesitated, like it didn't want to turn over. From the building, I heard a sound. Footsteps. Many of them. Dragging. Coming closer. I slammed the gas. As I sped away, my headlights caught something in the rearview mirror. Figures standing under the lights. Dozens. All watching. I didn't look back again. I drove until sunrise. When I finally stopped at a real gas station, I checked my phone. It was 7:42 a.m. I had lost over 5 hours. I asked the clerk if there were any pit stops along that stretch of highway. He looked confused. There hasn't been one there since the late 90s, he said. Burned down in 97. Couple employees died inside. That night, I checked my car's dash cam. The footage cut out the moment I pulled into the pit stop. The next clip showed me speeding away. No stop. No building. Just desert. But for a single frame. There was a face in my back seat. Watching me drive.